us today to discuss his new book, Write the Change, is CEO and Executive Director, Draft FCB Ulka, Ambi Parmeshwaran. Things have changed a lot from 1983.
I visualize the Indian marketing manager as someone who's riding this change tiger, and he's juggling with a laptop, he's got a CD, he's got a mobile phone, he's got a second phone. So, this is the Indian marketing manager today.
How do advertisers or marketers keep up with what Young India wants?
We at Draft FCB Ulka, have done a fair amount of work in trying to understand how women are changed. So we've done a study called Woman Mood, which we did 8 years ago, and we repeated it again 2 years ago. What we are finding compared to what the women of, let's say, 10 years ago were and today, and especially if you look at urban women, not just big cities, including small cities, they've undergone a tremendous change. One change is that today women are a lot more educated, as against average education being high school. Today a lot of them are graduate. Two, we are finding that the woman is no longer just satisfied being a housewife. She sees herself as a home minister, and she is controlling the home. The other interesting thing we found was, as against even 7-8 years ago, when the housewife used to believe that husband doesn't treat her well, etc., etc., there has been a significant change in the attitude. Today she is saying that, look, my husband is undergoing tremendous stress in office, in his business, so I need to provide support. The end goal has not changed over the last probably 50 years, which is her success is dependent on her children's success. If you look at young Indians, and whom I call young Indians are the post-liberators, 18 to 25, is a very different breed of Indians. They've lived in a period when economy has grown at an average of 8%. They've seen their father, change his car every 3 years. They've seen 25 television channels come into their home. If you go back one generation, let's say the generation which is 40 plus, that generation has always been hankering after international stuff. But this generation do not discount Indian brands. They feel as long as an Indian brand can deliver the promise, I'll buy. If you look at consumers, I think that's the two big changes.
One of the things you're probably seeing in a market like this is the growth of multiplexes, the changing of retail because of malls, of that whole mall culture coming in. How do these changes affect the consumer and the brands?
Even, let's say, 10 years ago, there was a dramatic difference between the top 10 cities in the country and the rest of the, let's say, 300 cities. But today, a lot of smaller cities have come up, and modern retail has come into smaller cities. There are malls in smaller cities. So the complete dramatic change in the way India shops. Now there's been a slowdown, so there is going to be some kind of a setback, but I think it will come back. It will probably 5 years time, you'll see that. So one is that there has been a dramatic change in retail. The way Indian consumer sees a retail outlet is changing and will continue to change. The other thing is, a lot of products have suddenly started becoming accessible. If you take, for example, mobile phones, 8-9 years ago, it was unreachable for a lot of people, but suddenly it's become mass. Now mobile has become completely massified, and this massification of mobile has happened within 5 years. If you take hair color, again you go back 10 years, hair color was an exotic thing which you kind of spent a huge amount of money, and you went to only some kind of places, and I know someone who went to the wrong place and he lost his hair. So so all that has happened, but suddenly hair color has become mass. I suppose it will continue to happen. It's not as if more markets will open up. I mean, Nano is going to open up a whole new market for cars. And
things
so
like the internet, having that kind of exposure to the number of websites, and for brands, it's a completely new space that wasn't there, say, 10 years back.
In fact, consumers have changed, markets have changed, and I believe marketing has also changed. And one of the areas where marketing has changed, what you said rightly, is that the way you connect with the consumer is dramatically changed. Television is important, press is important, but marketers need to engage with their consumers through different media. It could be connection at malls, okay, and internet. Now, for a country of 1 billion people, internet reaches only about 40 million or 45 million or 50 million people. It just seems to be small. But this 40 million is a very affluent class. This 40 million is largely below 30 age group, 40 million. So it's a key segment. So one of the articles I've written here is about called 8 steps to get 8 seconds. Researchers said that when a consumer goes onto the internet, if your site doesn't answer his question in 8 seconds, he's going to click out. Okay, so how do you make sure that within 8 seconds you can engage with your customer? So innovation is a constant engine. So marketing has to embrace innovation, and innovation ideas can come anywhere. It can come from, for example, technology institutes like IIT. I know IIT Madras has done some revolutionary stuff in many areas, and I know companies which are collaborating with them to come out with new products. Or you can use your vendors, and I know a lot of cosmetic companies today use their vendors to help fast process the innovation process. So, you need to innovate, you need to come with new products, and that is the cycle time for innovation is reduced. As against 2 years, it may become 1 year, it may become even less. So, a lot of marketing managers, their wives are not the real consumers of the product. So, you need to understand who your real consumers are, and which is why several companies have kind of breaking out of this concept of just focus groups and actually do what we call home visits, where you go and spend 2 hours in an actual home of your typical consumer, whom you know, like your wife or your brother, sister, may not be your consumers. So you need to understand who your real consumers are, and you need to find out how to meet and talk to them. This is especially true in a country like India, where there are so many layers of consumers. Okay, so someone sitting in an air-conditioned office may be actually making a low-cost detergent. Then no one in his office probably uses that product.
With all this, advertising has seen a lot of change.
In 15 years, we've become very much more television-driven. We think television even before we think press, so that's a dramatic change. But going forward, I think things like internet, things like mobile will become more important, so you will start thinking of communicating to consumers through that. 3 M's of advertising, which we need to kind of understand, which is the first M is what I call media neutral ideas. So once you have an idea, it cannot be just for press or just for TV, it has to be media neutral. So it has to go on to TV, it has to go on to internet, it has to go on to mobile, it has to go on to press. The other big challenge which we have is measurability. So whatever we do in advertising is becoming more and more measurable. So you need to put in measurable metrics into what you do in advertising. And the third is, of course, talent, which is you need to figure out how to manage there is a shortage of talent, and how do you manage your talent. So the client, the consumer, and the agency, and I think this is a critical triumvirate we are talking about. The agencies and clients have to understand what role they have with each other. Am I, as an agency, just a supplier of ads, or am I your strategic partner? You can help the agency do better for you as a client by walking the talk, by ensuring the right brief is given, the right time is given, the right emolument is given, so the agency can deliver. And agency internally, I've talked about how they need to put in metrics in place, so when they talk of delivery, they actually deliver. Finally, advertising is being created not to win awards. Advertising is being created to sell a product or sell a service. So I think the biggest award an advertising agency can get is that the client's product become a success. So if Indica sells well, it benefits us. If Santur sells well, it benefits us. Having said that, all advertising is finally measurable. It has to deliver, and we are in the business of delivering results. It's not an esoteric creative exercise. It is a serious commercial exercise. Big monies are being spent on advertising, and if you don't deliver, you're out of there.
Thank you so much for sharing these insights with us.
Thank you.